flyers available for everyone.
Are we all invested in buying the mail? This is for
Yes, our plan is to send out mailers during the 3 phases of the plan, the engagement plan to all houses in the neighborhoods.
That's another way to hold the job.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, any other questions around the block captains or the community connectors? Tara?
Kind of, you know, the draft values.
Oh, yeah, sure. Heads up. I know we covered this in the last meeting, but a lot of what you see on the walls and what we discussed, we've got sort of a draft set of values and goals. All of those values came from the common themes and goals and information in primarily these 5 documents, but a couple other documents as well, including there's a list of ideas generated in the equestrian center. So the Globeville neighborhood plan, Lyria Swansea neighborhood plan, the master plan from 2015, community benefits guiding principles, the GES plan from 2023, and the most recent ABCs of health sort of update on the health impact assessment. So those documents, we went through those. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm on a committee outreach work group, so is that in
Yes. Yes.
the
Which one? The,
community outreach work group?
oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so that was heavily influencing the engagement strategy. Whereas these plans are directly influencing the content of
The
this
outcomes of the plan
planning
itself.
process.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense? So there's like,
Well, I was just saying, so all these values that we're gonna talk about tonight, they were pulled from all these documents. That's where they came from to start with. And then if we tweak them, that's great going forward, but that's where it all came. That's how we're using it to form the base values.
One of the things that I think is missing when I went through this process is that whatever plan you come up with, it needs to be an ongoing fluid plan that needs to be revitalized every 3 years. You can't have something set in stone into infinity or perpetuity. I think this triangle plan needs to be set up so it's fluid and it accommodates change as things change over time. For example, the CIF puts in more money, and there needs to be this planning here needs to be adjusted to reflect those additional resources or lack of resources that don't come into the neighborhood. So I think this document needs to be set up so it's fluid all the time. Just like those two documents. And I didn't see that either.
Yes, I'll be able to see that. Yes, that's a good note. Okay.
so also what I just want to go back to the Cal plan. If you go to the website, we also have a chart of exactly the Cal plan recommendations and how they were carried over into this planning process.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's actually what the cow came up with, so that's one of the things we've been looking at. So I think we have,
Yeah, both, all of the engagement plans that the CAL and previous ones too before that are also online. There's a comparison of the CAL plan and the engagement plan that we're following online as well. That shows like what the CAL had planned and how we're implementing that into the engagement plan for these 3
Okay,
phases.
so I'm not, it is different. Yeah, when I go on the local, it was.
Okay, from the Cal plan document. Perhaps we dive into that.
Maybe not now.
Yeah, maybe not now, but let's connect them.
Yeah, there's a difference.
The family members.
Yeah.
Because you guys weren't involved in
Right,
doing this,
Right.
we could get together again. Great.
Okay.
So from that sort of, reading of those previous planning documents and everything else, I think you saw last week, we came up with, and this is meant to be a draft for discussions, 5 sort of values to drive the outcomes of the community vision plan itself. Housing and neighborhood stability, which we talked about, a little bit, a couple of weeks ago in the last meeting. So we've already actually edited the name of that. health, opportunity, connections, and sort of community and culture as the 5 values. And I think you guys have all seen it. There's survey questions and goals sort of under each value.
I think one of the key in housing, I don't see any documents to make reference to single family homes. That's just all just housing. And to me, the way this document is written, it looks like it's all high density housing. There's nothing in here for single family homes where residents can apply and create generational wealth. That's the most important thing. For this neighborhood to create generational wealth.
That's what just that I think is really important to give, right? What's the most important thing is we want to talk about values and goals. And as we go through the planning process, we'll talk about single family homes, townhomes, exactly how the plan does that, right? So, but if the key goal is creating generational wealth, that's something that we really need to record and make sure is, when we finish this, listed as the goals that drive the planning process, right? The outcome of this wants to be, what are the goals,
I'll
the
give you an
values and
example.
goals that
There's a house
we
right
check
there.
back on?
There's a house right there.
Yeah.
It's being sold in Lowville. That you have to lease the land. So that's like a mobile home.
Mhm.
Now, how's somebody gonna create sure, you get a
Right.
percentage, but it doesn't help the person.
No, this
The
doesn't,
longevity. I mean,
100% agree, so.
And that's what we want to hear. I
How do
think
we-
there's some
right.
pieces that are definitely like, what do you all, want to hear from the survey as far as like community, if it's generational wealth that the community is seeing as the big key, like that's what we want to hear in this initial first survey. It's the drafting of the values and goals, and that clearly stating that that's.
Right.
You know,
So we want to hear, that's great.
affordable, truly.
Yeah,
truly
affordable.
Right, and those are
Affordable.
Yeah.
different goals.
and
We need to hear
there's
both.
ways, and there's ways
Well,
to
we
get
have,
that.
There's
you
ways to
get
get to both,
into
right,
it.
yeah.
There's ways to get to that, and I'll give you an example. Right now, and I built a house in Woodland, 4334 Lincoln,
Yeah.
we'll look at it. It's driven by solar. It's all solar, it's all electric.
Right.
So therefore, the cost of ownership goes zero. The only thing person's paying for in that house is water.
Right.
And those same things, that same concept or conceptual plan needs to be throughout the whole neighborhood.
Right.
To reduce the cost of living, therefore, they can pay their taxes and insurance. In fact, insurance in this neighborhood, if your house is over 100 years old, you might not have insurance. 60% of these homes are over 100 years old. Well, that housing stock needs to happen now.
Right.
And not buying high density house. That's not the answer, in my opinion.
And that's what we want to hear, so we can definitely implement.
I mean, sure, we got.
And
we
the
got
answer is,
years
what we're gonna talk
I
about,
agree with that. I
Yeah.
agree with the concept and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not distorting anything that they're trying to
Yeah.
do. But I'm saying there needs to be a balance with single family homes.
Right.
In this neighborhood, 3,500 square foot lots. To have a garden, so use biochar soil so they can have fresh vegetables year round.
which gets at some of the other goals in the health, right?
And then the health is
Overlook.
I saw that.
clinic like FPL needs to happen there.
But like to your point, I totally agree. Like, we've been told now that there's like 1,000 unit mandate that this land needs 1,000 units. How are you gonna do 1,000 units if we're gonna put like single family homes?
Okay,
Because
can I
that's what
address that
people
real
want.
quick? I'll go right straight to the map here. Okay, this part of the section of the triangle down here by the Coliseum, we could put 200 units on 16 acres down here, right by the Coliseum. They're 3,500 square foot lots. You can put 1, 2, or 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bath. And you can put a carport back there. And you could have enough space, 4x6 space in there for a garden. Using biochar fuel, we have Colorado Compost right here that'll donate the land donate the soil for free. And it's biochar, so it uses less water, higher nutrients, and more productivity. And we have an academic institution here that'll help provide the gardening and all that fun stuff for it. So you could do it down here by the stadium next to Louisville Landing, or you could do it up here, 200 units. And it's not deed restricted. I talked to Mike about it, so it's ready to go.
So,
One moment really quick, online, if you all can state your name before you talk so that the folks online know who's speaking. And then if we can make sure that we're not talking over each other, so the interpreters have time to interpret. So
great. So,
I think, so one more.
my name is Matt from MIG. So I want to respond to the comment about 1,000 units, and I don't call it mandate. We did pull that from the GES plan for our land. It was quoted as a goal of that plan. So we didn't come up with that. That is in there, but I think it's something to discuss as we move through this process, and it's, I wouldn't consider it a mandate, but I understand why you think that's the way it's written.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
It reads a little bit like, I understand.
And he also mentioned workforce housing too, right? So
There's another way to get to that thousand square foot, thousand units. A lot of homes in GES, they're 6,250 square footage. You take that in half. So that now becomes 3,125. That's a legal size lot for the city and county of Denver where you can build an additional dwelling unit. And that, it's a set in stone right now. So therefore now people that have a 6,250 lot can put another unit on there and create additional generation of wealth so they can pay their taxes and insurance and create some more affordable housing. I call it innovative, environmental innovative housing in GES.
Absolutely, you need the money to do that. Right.
Yeah, but here's how you do it.
Well.
And here's how you do it. I got an answer for that. So I'm a homeowner, I'm a resident. I just went through the workforce program. I got my license. I'm 18 years old. I just graduated from Bruce Randolph High School. I got enrolled in the electrical unit, roughly 68. I got hired to do the equestrian center here. That's a 3-year project. I don't have to have 2 years work history because I just got out of high school. So therefore that requirement's eliminated. As long as I got a job
Right.
and I'm making good money, I can get that loan. So here's what you do. So those units down there, they need a construction loan. So you can go, and say the land is gifted from the city and county of Denver to the National Western Stock Show, who's the independent third party. And I think Habitat for Humanity does it different. But in this scenario, National Western holds the title. The resident puts down on deposit, gets a construction loan for a 1, 2, 3 bedroom house. Once the house is completed, now they go on and get a refinance 15, 20, 30-year mortgage. And now you got a house. And you got it at a discount because the city gave you the land. Now you just created $100,000 worth of equity.
This is great. We can get to workshop and how we do these things. That's.
Well, I just explained it out.
No. Yeah. But, you know, we want to start with sort of those values and the goals.
No, I was just,
Very plenty
I
of
was just trying to address
generational
the
wealth.
question.
Heard
How do we
another.
get to 100
Yeah,
units?
that's good.
1,000 units.
So as we mentioned, those were some of the goals that we wanted to highlight in this first survey. The purpose of the first survey is really to identify what matters most to the people and really build a strong foundation that's going to go into the next planning phases. And so we wanted to confirm and establish that values were clear and that they have measurable goals. So today we printed, we shared out in our previous meeting, the survey tool itself, but we also printed, the actual survey pieces that you all see here that we covered during our last meeting. So we want to give you all an opportunity to actually take a look through the questions, see if the answers are what they should be. If they aren't, like giving us an opportunity to really give that feedback off. So we are taking the next 20 minutes to give you all an opportunity to read through the questions. You have stickies and notes and markers and pens in front of you. Please feel free to mark up all of these boards. There's 2 in here. There's 2 in the hallway. Online, Elvina has a mural board for you all, a link that she's going to share with you all. So you can also mark up these boards online if you're able to. And we'll come back and regroup in 15 minutes through the thought and go through each of them individually for as a whole for thoughts.
Yeah, I also I'm Finley. I'm also from MIG. I wanted to flag a couple of things about the boards, just to orient, because they look a little different than the mural board if you guys were in the last couple meetings. So on the top is the value. So if we're looking at the whiteboard one, housing and neighborhood stability, that's the high level value, like the theme. What are we talking about? The theme. Then the bolded questions are the draft questions, and I'm totally underlining draft. Like we are open to wording changes. We're open to multiple choice answer changes. We're open to answering adding or subtracting questions. So for example, we spent a lot of time 2 weeks ago on the housing one. We made a couple of edits based on what you guys said last time. So there are specific questions in there about anti-displacement, but is this hitting the mark? That's kind of what we're trying to ask. And we want to make sure that we get to all the different topics today. So there are 5 separate topics on 4 different boards. So take your time and peek at them. And the little bubbles on the boards for the folks in the room, the little bubbles on the boards are just sort of like a high level summary, like, oh, I'm really interested in healthy food. I want to make sure that that question is asked right. You can like see that super easily on the board. So that's the room. So Does that make sense? A good question before we kind of get up and start writing?
Is this, I mean, kind of, people choose multiple options?
Yeah, please.
It's top three right now.
You're saying the person who's actually taking the survey? Yeah, the way this is formatted is you'll have that question and then you'll have options to choose from. And you'll have about 3 options that you're choosing from as your top options that represent what you care about. We want to make sure that these options represent what you guys really care about. So if you see an option set and what you think matters most isn't on there, we would like you to put a sticky up and tell us what you think matters most for that question.
Designing the question. Not answering them to say, but deciding.
Right.
I guess like by adding answers, sorry, that's okay, but by adding answers, you're already like limiting what people can respond to. Like you are catering what you want rather than like allowing people to actually write like what they.
So there's also an open-ended question for
With
everyone.
each one, there'll also be a,
So you can
add
also
anything
write
else you
about
want, but we
anything
haven't.
that you want, but we wanted, so like you mentioned, the actually word. So we've modified it to be like, okay, what does that mean? We have to ask the community a question that helps us understand. When they say actually affordable, what do they mean by that? So that's the idea in the way that that question about reading worked. So look at it and see if you think that work. Like, is that a good question?
And the Likert scale to use for all of these, I mean, so you're getting really clear information about how much does somebody want it? Like for the top 3 and then with the Likert scale?
You're saying like ranking of 1 through 6 or whatever.
Yeah, so we're getting a clear, like.
Talk about that. The thought is that might be fatiguing for people to have to rank. I mean, you see how many questions are in the room to have to then stack rank every single option might be quite challenging. We can talk about it.
But there'll be a follow-up survey then, once we.
I don't see why we couldn't do something like
And
that.
then use the Likert scale.
We-
Following.
That's more the best question. I don't, yeah, there's certainly the capacity to do that.
Totally decided. If there's a reason to do that, we can definitely talk about. Maybe they need to.
Because I think this is, just circling some is only a little tiny bit of data. It's not like the data we really need.
Well, so it's the aggregate. Just, do you mind if I just quickly describe it? The thinking behind this is, with every question, we want the option sets, and that's what you guys are looking at now. We want that to represent community voice, like what are the important things for you in that option set. So what we're trying to make sure that we get right tonight is that what you guys think is important to have in that option set is in that option set. So we have our best guess now based on all of the surveys that have been taken over the last 10 years. That's what Matt was showing, right? So we have our best guess at those options. But if you don't feel that the right thing is there, you just add that in and then we'll talk about it in a second. The reason that we have it set up in those option sets is because if we get 5,000 people to take this survey, then that option set will show if 4,000 people agreed on one of those things, that's a very loud signal, right? But you can also write in your opinion, and the write-in is important because that gives us the color, but we don't get the aggregate 5,000 person signal for that. The options show what's like really potent, what people agreed on, and then the written answer is the nuance, so we know what they really meant. And we're trying to get those two things with the way the question's constructed.
Amanda logo also part people pretty nice blah blah blah. Is there going to be like an asterisk or like below a place for resource for definitions? Like what is community land trust? Because people might be filling out this stuff and not know what these things actually mean, but if we can put it in simple terms, like at the bottom of the survey, or at least I think at the bottom of the
A few
survey.
references that explains what does.
Yeah.
What's that meant?
Yeah, so I think that would be a good sort for people who want to give real information.
Right, and they just don't want to be like, well, okay, I don't know what that is exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Nola has a question. I can wait till the people in the room go.
No, go ahead, Noel.
I think I'm worried that the answers to these questions aren't mutually exclusive. Like we have to choose between job opportunities and job training, for instance, but the two, like those two go hand in hand and they're connected. And why are we having to choose one thing when we have 80 acres of land that could potentially provide both job opportunities and job training. So why do we have to choose one or rank them? Or I don't, it's just, it feels like I don't understand what the purpose of having to choose one over the others. I mean, I understand you want to like have some things that stand out, but we also just need to have a conversation about some of these things.
Yeah, so that's, Nola, thank you. That's exactly where we're going. I think that's the perfect comment. Please don't separate job training and job opportunities. That's like to you, that's like one important thing. So that's what we want to hear from you guys on all of these. Like if these are not worded correctly, or if you feel like you're pinning one against another and that's not what you're going for, that's what you're going to tell us, so we can modify these.
And we can, oh, go ahead.
One at a time, then speak up there.
I was just gonna add to this, and Nola, you can correct, this is late, but yeah, you can correct, but I guess maybe it's not necessarily about like job opportunities and job trainings, like we're separating it into these 5 things, like housing creates opportunities for jobs. If you don't have stable housing, you can't get a job because you can't show up to a job place not having rested and not having showered and not having, you can't enjoy your community if you're working nights. And that goes back to the opportunities. So I think by segmenting, like I do understand, and I do think we need to like get as many opinions about different things, but I think what Nola is trying to get at and what I would agree with is because I think health is like the main thing, does not mean, and that's not my main thing, but just like if I was a person that said like health is my main priority, that also doesn't mean that like you could just be like, oh, well, we're only have like this much land for a community, so like health is the main priority that everyone said, so everything else, like there's no space for it. Like this is a lot of land, and so I think
I don't think that there's any intent for that. The idea is as we go forward in this planning process, we are going to be hitting all of these. Like you're going to have housing, we're going to deal with that, we're going to have health, whatever we've got under here, parks and open space and trees. We're going to have all those layers. And so the idea is, what if we get to a place where we're like, does the park get big? Or do we add more housing? Like, what if we have to make hard decisions along the way? We go back to these values and we say, okay, are we meeting all of the values that we identified in this process? They're just a groundwork for us to start our planning process. And they should reflect your values, obviously, not ours. Sorry, Shannon.
I have 3 questions, and I think that funnels into the first one, which is the purpose of the survey and what does it funnel into? And so I'm hearing you say that it is to begin the process and that it is also to be looked back at throughout the process.
Yes,
Okay.
that's a great way to say it. And as a reference for us to, are we getting it right? Does it reflect these values?
Yeah.
That's what we're.
And also to find information that we need to research and bring to you all through this process, right? So if amongst all of those things, I 100% agree that all of these are interlinked. Housing is essential to health, social determinants of, right? They're all interlinked. But in the health and in several of the things, there's a lot of goals that are written about healthy food access, right?
And
So-
as a follow-up to that,
Yeah.
it's not my 2 other questions, but are you willing to, when you say that you're gonna go research about things, are you willing to go get the expertise of people in the neighborhoods?
Absolutely.
On those topics?
Like, we want to bring, so if that rises to the top, and soon it will, then before we have the next, as we move through this, that tells us we need to go find that expertise and research all of the different ways that we can improve food access for the neighborhood, from how do we get a grocery store to come here to other things, right? And so it informs us on what we need, what information and expertise we need to reach out to the neighborhood and bring to them.
Great. How many, first question. How will people take this survey? Is it on doors or is it online or is it on paper? And how long of a survey is it going to be? All 3. Okay. That's our goal. Do you think it's reasonable on doors? It's kind of long. We will hold, yes, we got asked technology wise, there's some folks who don't have the opportunity to take it on in there. So we're having tablets with block captains available at the doors for folks to take the survey. It is quite long, but that's what our community connectors and block captains are out there doing, for making sure that they're hitting the doors in all of the community, whether it takes an hour house visit or a 2-hour house. Yeah,
This is Matt again. By the way, that comment, it's quite long, is something we really want to know, because you know the community better. How long is too long? Right? If we make this too long, well, people will stop taking it, right? So what's the, you know,
We can go.
yeah.
So then with that, will community members be compensated for participating in the survey, not just the connectors? Because if it's going to be this long and this intensive, one thing I'm always hearing from communities, they're always asking us to do surveys and then we don't get compensated and it's not okay.
And that's something
And
that I
this is
asked
my,
the last time, that if there's gonna be funding, like if you don't find all the block captains, can that funding go to that are doing those surveys? Instead of just going anywhere else? I don't know.
Well, I don't have an answer exactly, but that is a very good idea. And maybe we just have to kind of let this fall and see how many we get and what we have to do. And I hear what you're saying.
plan in process though, like, don't wait.
Yes, sir.
You need to have something in response in order for the community to engage, because if it's reactionary, you're gonna get people who are like, why, what for, oh, now you're paying, what about the people that didn't get paid because it's a survey?
I want to really back this up. Like, if it's that long and everyone around this table has surveyed people in this neighborhood and been outdoors, like it should be paid for sure. Do you have a number of people that you're? It just is. It just
Yeah, and people remember we have those really high goals of how many people we're trying to reach. So do you remember the survey?
Like 7,000, yeah, 60%, 50% are familiar with it, 60% engaged, or 75% are familiar with it, 60% engaged, and 50% taking the survey. So that's about,
So 50% taking a survey is a big number of people that we're trying. So
what's the number?
yeah,
What are the real numbers?
it's about, it is about, yeah, somewhere near about, yeah.
Hamilton has a question.
Yes. Well, who was that? Sorry.
Hey, I'm gonna try and keep this brief because I have a 5-year-old sleeping right next to me. But so I've got like several things that I'd like to just be captured on recording right now, and just my thoughts and reading over this. I think it would be critical if we ask about the length of residency, as in how long the residents that we're polling have lived in the Global area. So I think that like it's important to center like the people have been here longest and historically. I think that their input, I mean, I think I just wouldn't want to see the data skewed by new arrivals too much. I think that we should capture housing vulnerability a little bit more, what like asking questions like what best describes your current housing situation, if displacement risk is already high for people. I think we should ask like who do you believe will benefit the most from redevelopment of the triangle? And then I have several other thoughts, but I'm stirring my son, so I'll just put them in the chat. But I think that my primary one is I think centering like the length of residency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's actually something that I've mentioned in the past regarding the new builds off of Fox Street. There's two or three, but are giant complexes, and most of those people are new transplants and don't have any connection to the histories, and that's important that are like handles.
So we have a little more info on that. So hopefully this will get to it. So we talked about like can we understand better where those survey responses are coming from? Because if we just get all the apartments and we say, well, here's what the answers were, we won't know. So we can design the survey in a way that allows you to identify your closest major intersection. Not everyone's building and not everyone's house and stuff is really complicated, but your closest. So if you identify an intersection that is over at Fox, you're gonna kind of know that response is coming from. Whereas, you're at Washington and whatever, it's a different response. So that can be built in. And so that's our answer last time that came up. And so we dug in on what we could do, and we think that's the easiest that is implementable.
I have another question. Sure, Shane. So this is kind of a tricky ask because I don't really know how to ask this question or put it together, but a few of us just came from the data center walk and talk tour. And I'm wondering if there's any consideration of how we're going to be building with the impacts, the huge limited impacts of that center. That's going to be using so much water, so much electricity, expected rolling blackouts, expected increased costs of utilities, and all of these things that are directly going to affect all of these things in the health and all these things in the housing and neighborhood security and safety, everything we've talked about. So there's got to be some kind of collaboration or pre-plan for that too, I think.
Yeah, I don't have a plan yet. So I don't want to say an answer because I don't know what that answer is, but coordinating on that and pulling that in.
It's the short answer is
It's
with
got it.
100% clear. We need to understand the impacts of that data center and make that transparent and
I
talk
think
about it and talk about the plans. Yeah, there's a lot.
research about the impacts of this, and this is a huge, massive
Yeah.
one that's much bigger than most.
Right.
So like the water usage and everything alone is going to affect everything when you get to the triangle.
We need to pull that together and address that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we will. I've been pulling a lot of information.
Great. I think we'll give folks 10 minutes.
Yes.
To just roam around, look at the questions, and then we'll come back and discuss.
Yeah, and we'll go through each one. So,
And she wants to put our thing.
Yes.
yeah,
Put it right on there.
yes, go for it, write it, cross it out, and online, suggest new one, everything.
Thank you. Yes, yes. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think how much of the.
Yeah.
Continue also.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can add all the sticky notes online too. You can't move the question, but you can add sticky notes next to it.
Right.
Is there anything in the chat or anything for
I
now?
don't see.
Yeah, or you can just send it to chat.
Does anyone-
Whatever
does-
is easiest.
Do the people online need directions on how to grab a sticky note?
Elvina's on one.
Yeah.
If anybody's still on this phone. Okay, thank you.
Chips.
Yeah, how you doing, man? Nice to meet you. Like. Yeah. How about these? President. You can't do it.
Yeah, go.
Okay, right. I heard you. Oh, sure. I do my stuff. But I think.
I'll make one.
Like.
I'm new. Yeah, yes. I've been in terror for 1 year.
Feel free to.
So.
We got farming about his Trump movement. This would have changed the whole social fabric here, but he went in.
If there is a change, a survey, there's not just a survey. Actually, we do have surveys, but there's.
It's like for what you for more. Like,
Yeah.
I am a supporter of.
You know, other than plan, my best friend was very glad school professor, he taught national students of peace.
Yeah.
That's what I hung out with, and I wasn't even in this, I wasn't even in. Like,
There.
but that's the kind of guy.
You put some in there about like.
I have. I have. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
And then.
I was the same, like unless, I guess that would be helpful to know, like what is the 0 to 500? 0 to 300?
There's the new. Comes on Wednesday.
So those like that's helpful.
No, I'm gonna put that in.
Monthly rent. Fine.
Yeah, so like you have a section.
Yeah, if you read it, let's see, they'll come say that. Is this verbiage is yours? They should have it all right.
So
It's okay.
if it's also helpful for you to like organize your thoughts and took your too, but what we're looking for is like. Your.
Weren't a lot of questions in it with that key on your how you pay them. But I think they neighbors will respond to that. They don't feel like they want to. Confidence, you know. Or if we give them ranges, maybe they don't. have to be-
Yeah.
And then this is where I maybe invite you, I just put examples,
Yeah.
maybe research.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah.
What is it? I'm not positive.
Yeah. Oh, hi. Yeah, well, this is like. Coliseum. The costs. The Coliseum isn't considered a part of the triangle.
It is.
It is.
It's included in the study. So this study includes the Coliseum site, the main or triangle area,
Okay.
as well as the bus barn site and the new block, that we're going to acquire north. So it includes all of, we're going to cover all of the properties in this study.
It's kind of like,
I don't think it includes this, right? It doesn't include this, just the Coliseum.
the triangle.
Yeah. Oh, hi.
Go right here.
Little. Because remember a couple of years ago, there had been some maps that began to take the Coliseum out of the triangle.
Yeah, I don't think we meant to take it out, it when we were just showing the area of
Okay.
potential development, you know what I mean, like, is this one, this doesn't affect, this the path is those.
Right. And now that's like funding for that is on the table.
Potentially,
Yeah.
I mean, they're looking for it actively.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why we're like, okay, let's do the whole thing, so that doesn't land. So that has different things come, but it can.
Did we have like 1 minute? No.
It's
very right.
5-minute warning,
Oh.
5 minutes online if you haven't had a chance.
I should check that out actually.
Little notebooks are there. Yeah, all of the questions, right? Like when David supposed to be there.
This
one I know sober deer.
That was only by.
Oh.
And more about him that. Is similar. And it's going to be-
Yeah, when you write in this graphic, we're talking about. Kind of to choose between those things.
Yeah. Certain safety. But I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like. Make sure that's.
Easily diverse, but like, construction, I was like, where am I? Oh, interesting. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, yeah, where, I think, when maybe you can. What it is. Like, honestly. They were.
Oh, sorry, here. All right, cool, okay.
I was like the one city project that I was really good at. I mean, too, I took the.
That's just really have to meet you. What that's been? Okay. Are you doing two individual people? Is that what I hear? Oh, you switch back. Okay, yeah, that's okay.
After we.
Yeah, yeah.
They know, they're like.
They never.
Yeah, exactly. So channeling, it takes a lot. I speak Spanish, but not perfect. Yeah. Just, what?
So they redo the whole order or no, not then. 5 years ago? I know, yeah. Okay.
Sí, creo que se habían cogiendo los en línea.
Oh, we got to.
It's not French. Maybe.
Like, what if a little bit of center? I would do, I mean, that's the, just so much of positionality. I would say maybe housing and neighborhood stability, because it would stabilize, that's what mine.
Yes.
It'd be a benefit to the.
Because
community.
there's no.
So maybe it's also another thing to add to like culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I think housing and neighborhood and then went on culture. Thank you.
Yes.
One more minute. I want to make sure we have time to get through all the portions.
Love that, yeah.
So, yeah, it's fine. Yes. You missed it. Online, can you hear us? Lavina?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is anyone, can anyone hear, everyone hear us in the interpretation channel?
You'll have to call them anyway.
Oh, there's a code.
And then whether you put in.
Yes, yep. Todos pueden escucharnos en línea.
I put it up there. It's this one. Is it for this? Just as it.
We both filled some folders. I'm gonna bring them in now.
I think I'm gonna share my screen. Lavina, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll share mine.
That's the line. We choose.
All right, we both have an order. Do you want to go in?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start with culture and community and kind of go through the online one. I don't see any new stickies online about this one in particular, but I do want to give an opportunity to discuss the ones that were added on here. Let's see, we have affordable daycare as one of the pieces. I think there was a couple of conversations of where that would fit, and I think that goes back to our conversation of intersectionality, right? I think it's goes into housing and neighborhood stability, but it also goes into like the culture and the community of the neighborhood. So where would it both opportunities, yeah. So continuing to create the conversation there. This section is integrated among all sections instead of its own section was a comment that was also said instead of it just living on its own. Accessibility is also affordability, so use affordability instead of accessibility. Protected spaces, refuge, shade, adding it to like the what matters most to your community spaces. Youth workforce development as part of the culture and community as well. And then data centers, which already in progress and needs seed money from CIF.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be offensive to Shannon here. I'm just trying to say that all these projects that we're all talking about, and I think Mike left, right? Where did Mike go? Mike Bouchard.
He was asking.
Okay, he even said clearly, everything's on the table. So what he meant, when I said from a financial standpoint, well, he said any innovative, creative, forward-thinking concept, and I'm not trying to take resources from the CIF, I want to make that clear. All I'm saying is that all these projects in here, we need something, some type of resource. Financial resource, sustainability. Otherwise, we can come up with the best plan in the world. Smart city, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But if we don't have no funds to sustain these projects, they're gone.
Well, and just to add on to that, like, we're aligned on that. That is what the CIF is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the community bank for the projects that the community wants to build and own. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's why I put those two statements up there. And it reference exactly what you're saying. And those are policy statements from the mayor's office. So it's in the law. The law, the National Western has to abide by that. That's the law. That's policy right there.
Yeah, two pieces that are important to definitely identify.
That's the law.
And then we also have data centers, which I know we touched on a little bit ago, adding it to the culture and community section, and particularly what matters most to you for neighborhood fit, as well as single family house and housing in general, and then truly affordable housing, and what that looks like for each community. Any pieces that you all think are?
Yeah,
go ahead.
just you guys want to talk about those a little bit. So the thing on data center, was there a question that you wanted to be asking, or was it just recognizing its importance, or was there like a survey question you wanted to ask? Or
It was more of a question, I think, for you guys.
Okay.
Are we gonna have to bear all of the consequences of how it's coming into our neighborhood and affecting the affordability and the health and the culture and the history, everything?
Okay.
I mean, it adds to the history of disruption and displacement and poor health. Like that, I don't think we all want to continue that history though.
Sandy too. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I added a question under health about the data center to what Amanda's saying. Just to ask people like what else in your neighborhood is affecting your health, and we could add, Purina, the data center, but your walking and biking accessibility, Suncor. But I think this probably is not a survey question, but I just want to put it out there while we're like having group discussion about it, that like a question we do have is what's the relationship between National Western and the data center? Like National Western has a electricity entity, sorry, I'm not using the right words, but that can use water. So like there's like
reclamation of water and reuse.
so there's like discussion of like if it can plug into the data center, but if that is the case, then and like that water energy source was paid for by the city of Denver and voted on by city council. So and that resource, that energy resource, if it's gonna be plugged into National Western, be to the benefit of the neighbors. Instead of to the energy source for National Western.
Or if we're having rolling blackouts, we have access to that energy too. So our residents who are on oxygen or like who have beds that need to be refrigerated, they're not in a dangerous position.
Well,
Or even groups.
Whatever the answer, how do we rolling blackouts are a risk because of the data center? How are we gonna address that and make sure it doesn't happen?
Get money from the data center.
Whatever it is, right? Like the solutions we'll work on, right? But we want to make sure we understand the goals and the priority. Obviously, that's
Yeah,
priority.
what are we getting? Yeah. So, okay, so use of, yeah. Okay.
Becca has a comment when there's a moment.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Hi, thank you. One thing that I feel that needs to be, that everybody needs to keep in mind is when we are trying to solve the issue of displacement, developing and developing, I feel like that's counteracting productive to what we're trying to preserve. And the folks that are in our communities, they're trying to sustain here. And that's like the most important thing. So when we think about developing, is that truly helping displacement? I think that's something very, very important to really let it sit in.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's like, if there's market force housing, that drives up the it makes it so affordable housing is no longer affordable.
Well, if we're doing 80% AMI, that's not helpful.
No,
for
that's
anybody.
not affordable.
Right.
For us, for our neighborhood, that's not affordable. For me, that's not.
Yes. And part of the survey is to really get to that. Like, if that's what you feel, that's what we need to all take away from the survey.
Right.
That we're not working. Got it. Yes. So so just getting our questions set up so that we get that kind of result back. But let's not go to housing yet, because we'll never get through these others.
Yes.
Any last minute pieces on the culture and community before we move to health? Okay. I see some hearts and likes on some of the choices on here, but I don't see any stickies online. Maybe we'll start there though first, if any folks have any online comments to add to the health section one. Okay, in the room, we had some, stickies mention underutilize, the health pieces, around what should the biggest focus around safety on the site be. We also have good access to trails and find long-term solutions to loitering and safety issues as a concern. Think 45th and Washington access closing.
Behind McDonald's.
What outside neighborhood is impacting your health, data center, arena, food access, et cetera. So really back to the intersectionality of some of these pieces as well. Dependable accessibility. And then folks want to make sure that all of them are listed, and not necessarily pick and choose. What should be the biggest focus when it comes to healthy food, affordable food? Where are people currently getting food? Small market vendors, affordable, healthy foods, currently connected, healthy options, culturally connected, healthy options. What should be the biggest focus for a healthier environment on the site? All of them these are all inherent rights, totally agree. Concern who pays for remediation, city paid, costs not passed on, and then making sure that all of them are listed.
One of the things on the underutilization that needs to happen in there, we just set up a medical internship with Colorado Charter High School. The kids come over to the clinic at TPA and they shadow a couple of doctors and they in turn set up a clinical internship with those kids. And the second thing is that clinic is trying to come into the National Western to increase the utilization of their services there. So that's what I meant by underutilized. That specifically does not be utilized enough.
No.
By the GES community, there needs to expand and empower the residents. And so if somebody does have an asthma or respiratory system, please go in there. I mean, I can go on, but.
It is that the clinic on the west side doesn't exist. Yeah. I mean, I was just saying, would it be more effective if it was
Like
at
located.
47th?
No, I mean, they
It's
have a
brand
mobile.
new.
Right, so probably.
It's
but
brand new.
yeah.
Also, there's like what's the wait?
The weight of what?
To get healthcare access. There's like 3 months or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really.
They're already over it.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking, should the goal of this plan, right, includes more space for them over here,
More diagnosis.
more services, more space. Right, which, I mean, yeah.
In the
But it has to benefit the residents here too, because we see most of the residents here can't go there. And I'm talking about my experience because there's no space or whatever reason. And most people that goes there are from Aurora, from other neighborhoods. So if we talking about having more space for the community, we really have to focus on the space for community. We really need to have more residents going to the clinic because we don't see that much. And that's been an issue since I moved here, 11 years ago. And that's something that we keep saying, that we need people. And then if you want to get in there, it's really hard because there's a wait. And when that wait happens, then there's like other issues that you can't even get in there.
Huh.
That's a really good point to note, yeah. I think in the chat, there's also in the connection section, can we ask if community would want space for cultural celebrations from Hamilton? Definitely something that I didn't see in there, but we definitely will note down. Any pieces that are missing or that you all want to address further in the health section?
I have questions. So when you start building and everything, you're gonna do the cleanup of the soil and everything before, like, because that's something that we keep saying that when the I-70 project happened, they promised that they were gonna be doing watering the soil, whatever. And it never happened. Like I used to walk a lot because we were like against that happening. And like I will stay there like for many hours to see if they really water the soil, and they wouldn't. Like they were just building and building and building. And we already know the health issues that we have in this neighborhood, in this neighborhood. So if, I don't wanna see that, again, it's been promised to do the job right and it's not gonna happen. So we really wanna make sure that if you guys are gonna do the cleanup, and I said to everyone, like, we keep building and building and building on top already contaminated soil.
Yeah.
And that's a worry. For me, that's the first concern, because I was part of the health study and I saw all the percentages of the health issues that we have in our neighborhood. Yeah, we need housing, but yeah, we need housing on top of more contaminated soil. We don't need that. We need to be doing cleanups and make sure that the employees are really doing the work. Not just getting paid and not watering the soil.
Right, and actually doing what they say, like, we still, the money was there to fix our sidewalks years ago. I was
And
sharp
they're
this year
still-
because we said we will get back to stuff.
Well, now people are paying for sidewalks. I don't know if you got the bill for 300,
Yeah,
$400.
it's just like so many things that, where it's like, we're told this, we're told this.
Yeah.
We were asking for sidewalks, now we have to pay for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, the cleanup of the soil. So, okay, so are you guys feeling like, because I know we're just talking of getting these ideas, so as long as we feel like we can adjust these questions to reflect that. I mean, ask now if it's not like, well, what are you gonna do with that exactly? Do we want to put that into question? Because like, I guess there's always a clarity, like, are we trying to add it into a question, or are you just telling us because we need to know and we need to address it as we go, but it doesn't necessarily have to
And
be
then
a
it
question.
brings up another question. I used to work with Superfund sites as an activist. Cleaning up a Superfund site causes problems for the neighborhood. So when they're doing the remediation, what are gonna be the protection mechanisms for our neighbors?
Yes,
I think-
yes.
So I mean, we need to talk about that too.
I think as regards like the survey, which is what we definitely want to get right tonight. I think we, at least from my perspective, we've stayed off the Superfund cleanup because that is something that will need to be done perfectly and will be done perfectly given its health concerns. So it's not something which is like flexible as much as like things like parks and housing might be.
Yeah, I guess it's true. You don't need to,
We're not asking.
we're not asking your opinion if you want us to make sure it's safe or not.
No, we don't, that we don't pay for it at all.
Right.
It's safe when it's happening.
I think, yes.
Yeah.
And just, let's write that down.
Like what you're saying, it is important for us because we have been told for 30+ years that this is going to be done right, that it has been done right. It's fine, you're fine, but don't let your kids go play in the soil. Make sure they wash their hands.
Right.
Don't let them come inside with their shoes on. Don't dare drink this water. So it is an issue, but we have to always bring it up. It is a space.
I understand.
And what he's not saying is, I don't think it's a survey question, because it's a given,
It has to be
right?
addressed somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it could and should be, and I think like it's an open answered question about what have been your experiences around
The environmental.
environmental contamination, environmental remediation, how has that affected your life?
And make it an open-ended, so
Yeah.
that people can share that what they need us to know, but we don't need to make it a multiple choice question.
Right, because then when you say it will be safe and perfect, then you can take what they respond and say, okay, we'll make sure that people know when noise is gonna happen. People know when their house might shake. People might know when, debris might come into their home, or we'll try to mitigate that.
How we will mitigate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make sure
okay,
air purifiers on during this whole week.
yeah, okay, let's do that. I like that. That's a great solution. I agree. It's really important. Let's get a question. But it will help inform us of all those pieces and parts so that we can carry that forward.
I feel personally the same about what should be the biggest focus for a healthier environment on the site. I'm going to say those are all inherent rights.
Right.
Like, I don't know that it needs to be this question, but maybe you could include like, we are aware that we need to be mindful of creating healthier and cleaner air and soils and water and noise, blah, blah, blah.
So so I'm super clear, because, we're finalizing this survey in the next few days. The purpose of the health question that you were referring to is to try and get a sense of, because I captured that before, is to get a sense of like, what are the sources of negative health outcomes for people? Like, what are the things that most bother you?
There,
Sunco.
I did put a source, but no, this is
Yeah.
a question about what have been your lived experiences through these kind of environmental calamities. I wouldn't probably use that word, but I'm it's
Right.
coming to my mind.
Yeah.
What have been your lived experiences? And so some of it's gaslighting experiences too.
Right. So
Right.
where did this not go well in the past? How did this, like you're saying, you weren't properly alerted to issues of dust or anything? So like where did like communications and different things fall short in the
Or
past?
where did you get sick, or where did it
Yeah.
harm your children, or what have you? So that can inform your, because I'm just, sorry to repeat myself, but when you're saying that the remediation will be perfect, people have probably said that before, and then these are the lived experiences people have had, and we just want you to read those and ensure that you can mitigate those in your process.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's what needs to happen. We need to have an environmental plan set forth by the city charter, dictated citywide. Every neighborhood, just like every neighborhood has a community plan, we need to have an environmental plan that empowers the residents to clean up, but at the same time, is funded by the city. I mean, if you drive around this neighborhood, you see tires, concrete, everything on the floor. And then the homeless make it even worse. I mean, there's no environmental plan. And I don't know why the city won't embrace that and move forward. I mean, it's so simple and straightforward. And that needs to happen every 3 months, not once a year.
And there's-
Every day. And then you incorporate all those comments
Right.
that are being shared right now.
Right.
That's just one question right there. With an environmental plan, you address everything in there.
There's no zoning for the data center in the whole city of Denver. There's no zoning.
Yeah, that's a good
for
example.
For that, and yet they're reneging on some of the comments that they made about the one that's going to our neighborhood right here. So there needs to be some stricter policy around that.
Yes.
And that's Brad. He's the director of planning, so I hit him up.
Okay.
That works. We will write these all down.
Yeah, no, that was good. I like where we landed on the environmental piece. Great. Okay, yeah, so are we good on that one?
Any last comments or thoughts?
Thanks for listening.
Yes, of course.
Helpful, yeah.
Opportunity is the next one. I see some thumbs up on the options. I don't see any stickies to address online. On the board out here.
We've got it right here.
Yeah, you got it?
Read it. So on the first question, what's the biggest focus for opportunity? There's 3 stickies. One says all of them, wealth building and affordable housing. And I read this and I wanted to sort of address it. I think those are great. I know, it was said earlier, obviously all of these are interrelated, and stable housing is the foundation of opportunity and health and a number of things. So 100% agree. And maybe opportunity is the wrong name for this value, for this category, because what we're trying to get at, with them, and understanding they're unrelated, is sort of how do we grow business and educational and those.
Workforce pipeline type of thing.
Yeah, more about employment, job opportunity.
I think what you're really talking about
Right.
is quality of life. That's what you're really talking about. All those factors equal the quality of life.
But we need to be, to have something, to have a value and then a goal and a way of measuring it, there has to be a certain level of specificity to it, right? So that we can say, are we achieving this or not? Quality of life, agree with you, but that is a little bit subjective.
Income, a job, a house, all those are quality, all those are measurable factors.
And that's what we're trying to say,
Key
is
performance indicator.
So is culture and community, I think, and health.
in health, right? And so
Somebody comes over, does a name's dance.
all of
How's
these,
that?
coach, right, they come back to housing.
So
But we wanna
maybe
make sure we cover
Reframe
other
one at a
things.
time, interpreters,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
So maybe a reframe would be more of a socioeconomic opportunity, because that encompasses
That's the top.
Yeah.
the trying to
Perfect.
promote workforce, job training, wealth building, youth programs. It's more of building out socioeconomic opportunities for the underserved community.
Does everybody feel okay with that? I like.
Yeah, that's great.
You have a hand up online, Danny.
Hi, sorry I couldn't join earlier. When I read through the draft survey, I was struck by the fact that y'all are asking people to choose three, and these are not mutually exclusive things. These are strategies that can be layered in. And for a project that is supposed to deliver community benefits, I would hope at roughly the scale of the amount of investment in the rodeo. I would hope that we wouldn't have to pick and choose amongst sort of small nibble around the edges solutions, and that we could have something a little more holistic. So I'm wondering if it makes sense to reframe this either as like, which of these can you see yourself connecting with and rank them, or to reframe the question to get at like, do you have a small business? Do you have interest in starting a small business? Are you looking for community, space for a nonprofit or a community-based project? Or like, what are your needs? And just assume that if we have that understanding, we'll be able to deliver those things. But I think the like, what of this menu would you like, and you only get to have a few, really comes from a scarcity mentality, and I don't think that's the right way to start this project.
What I mentioned, the Likert scale, that actually are getting actual data about how much do people want this, what does it actually mean with them?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, Candy. That makes total sense.
Danny.
Oh, sorry, Danny. Sorry, I couldn't hear who that was at the beginning, but I do agree with you. So instead of it coming across as pick three, because we're not really saying you can only have three, that's not really what's happening anyway. So we could rephrase it and say, which of these do you connect with best, or that phrasing that you said, do you see yourself connecting with?
Or I think collecting that data, like, do you work in a trade? Are you looking for small business support? Or, are you interested in job training? If so, what?
Can I ask you this question? So essentially, I think there's a communications thing that we could work on, which is essentially, if you're seeing 6 options, those have been determined by dozens and dozens of pieces of survey data from the past that's brought them there. So they're all seen as high priorities. So none of those are low priorities. You're just choosing which 3 are most valuable to you from amongst these priorities. And all of them are going to go in on one level or another. We're just trying to figure out a tiebreaker. Regarding your question of like the individual, like, how could a small business loan or something benefit you? We have a text section at the bottom. And so would that be beneficial is to just ask, individually, like, what is a piece of help that in your experience could be helpful for you? And you could put that in the free text section. Would that kind of help?
I think people probably need to be prompted, like, do you have a small business? If so, what's the name? Give us your contact information. How can we connect you in? Right now, I see this as more of a propaganda question that's leading people to have perhaps unreasonable expectations based on past promises made to this community about having quote unquote good jobs. I believe there was one local hire from I-70 and he has since been relocated to Nebraska. So, I think like the conversation around good jobs and opportunities, like that's great, but we have already established that these are priorities, and I think being able to understand how NewCo can deliver, like y'all should be figuring out the logistics of how to make this happen, not kind of marketing through questions.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the next phase is like, once we understand which are the things that are of most importance to you guys, that's when we'll be talking about solutions in the summertime. And hopefully what gets provided is going to be seen as addressing these needs very seriously, And so that's where like this puts pressure on us to meet these needs. So I hear what you're saying. And the purpose of giving this feedback is so that then we have pressure on us to be meeting it with the solutions, right?
So if you have any thoughts, Danny, on how to rephrase that, could you write that in the chat? Just so we make sure we grab it. And we might have to think about this one a little bit. And I think maybe we'll just have to think a little bit about how, I mean, yes, these are all priorities. So nobody's saying you have to pick 3 and the others fall off the table. So how do we get that across, or how do we position the question so we're getting kind of what we need out of it, but it's not meaning that anything else doesn't make it. So,
Yeah, I'm sorry. So one of the things also is that a lot of these questions residents have answered in previous surveys. I mean, if you were living here without the I-70 project and all the other projects that came with that, I was one of the people that were knocking on doors, doing surveys, doing this, and there was the point where people didn't want to answer any more surveys. People were tired. They were saying that, oh, we already answered this and nothing happened. And it was because when the I-70 project happened, and I keep mentioning that is because they promised jobs, they promised training, but there was very few residents that were getting those jobs, that were getting those trainings. When they promised the air conditioners, they promised a bunch of things, the new windows. A lot of people didn't get them because of their immigration status. And that wasn't a big issue because it was people living right there where the construction was happening. There was families that were getting sick when they were not sick before because all the dust was coming from the windows. So it's just, we have to figure out how to do a survey that people are gonna be willing to answer. I know new residents are gonna do it, but people that have been living here and answering surveys and seeing no results, it's sometimes hard to do it, and just trying to figure out how we can do all these questions in a simpler way that is not so tiring, that is not so exhausting, because trust me, it's even exhausting for me that I have to answer surveys and that I have to be also helping people filling out surveys. I mean, it's really hard. And also when you don't see those results, when you don't see really things that you're asking for. So how we can really do this in a simpler way that people can really trust the process.
yeah.
Hand up online, Becca, and then Shannon.
Yes, I just wanted to add to what Sandra was saying. So you gotta be mindful, I've been in Globeville for 40 years. And, my grandparents were a part of doing community work, attending meetings, trying to really push stuff for the community. And then, like Sandra's saying, we fill out all these surveys, we push for all this stuff. And, and we're left with disappointment because everything that we say, everything that we want, the exact opposite is happening all around us. So we feel as a community that our voice doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what we're trying to say. All of the results that we have been given have been completely opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. And it's very very unfortunate that that fight has been lost in people a long time ago. And so when we're talking about families that have been here for generations and generations, it seems like the newer folks that are moving in, they don't understand the fight that we've been fighting. They think nothing is new under the sun. We've seen it all, we've heard it all, and we've been through it all. And that's the key thing is we've been through it all and we continue to go through it. And it's just, all the surveys and everything, people are up to their wits' ends with it because nothing's happening. Everything that the people are voicing that they want, the complete opposite keeps happening. So, I think it's important that, okay, we're getting true, surveys done, true results. And it's not just okay, well, let's tally up the votes and, I think it goes deeper than that. The logic, the reasoning, their lived experience. I think it plays a very vital role and it's more than just answering yes or no on a survey.
Yeah.
And
I really appreciate what you had to say, Sandra, and also Becca, what you said earlier about making sure that people can sustain as we're thinking about development. And to that end, as we're talking about people being over-surveyed, the GES Coalition, I think 10 years ago now, in the origination of their organization, did a survey of the entire neighborhoods. And to the point too of like that being the basis for building something that was community owned, like that helped them start the land trust. So I would love to see that survey be in your list of documents that you're referring to. And if you can also refer to those survey questions, we'd appreciate that.
Do we have that?
I can email it to you probably right now. I'll do it right now.
That'd be great. Make sure.
Any other comments online?
I just want to say as a point of clarification on that, so the idea is to make sure that there's questions that capture lived experience specifically as to biggest question. That's what we need to make sure we're getting. Okay.
I think it specifically talked about displacement and basically like 10 years ago, 9 out of 10 families were at risk of displacement. I can't imagine that it's gone down.
And we're about to get to that housing, right?
Yes, housing. is next.
Getting there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll make
okay.
sure.
Do we, where are we at? Do we have any other?
There's a comment from Danny on White Chiefs 3. They're not mutually exclusive. I think we covered that piece. So wanting to just make sure that they're open-ended. And then Nola put in a link to the survey. So
Okay,
thank you. And then, yeah, I don't see any other.
I guess I saw Nola's question that she mentioned that maybe we don't even ask that question.
Oh,
at
yes, I
all.
think that's, yeah.
Which one?
The first one in opportunity, which
What is it?
it is what should be the biggest focus for opportunity on the site. This is the one we've been sort of talking about. The options are
Right.
good jobs, job training, youth programs, small business support, entrepreneur support. So if we're
The
talking,
answer is all of the above.
yeah, like it sounds like this one might be sticky. And Matt, we might want to think about taking it out and carrying the conversation through into when we get to actions.
You could also reframe it as a more of a qualitative question where it's open-ended and, maybe frame it as, well, I don't know if I'm not sure if socioeconomic would be the right word to use, because we want to use language that is accessible and all the community would understand, in either languages. But I think it would more look like, what would equitable opportunity look like, or something along those lines?
Or inclusive.
Include, yeah.
Some of the early
Yeah.
comments, which I would have written down. There's a bit more focus on what of these, or these might not be what things, would be most impactful or most relevant to you. Right, so it makes it a little more.
Yes, yeah, and you
Mentioned something from the CAC meeting, is that support that? We talked a whole lot about like the hotel stuff and job opportunities there include, we'll give you free education for this specific line of work that keeps you stuck in this hospitality industry for the rest of your life.
right.
Or it's an expectation of, we have all these jobs for janitorial services and what, like, those are really important things, but really brilliant people in these neighborhoods that using their skills in the most appropriate way that they may not be able to access because they're limited in their availability to get the training. So not just limiting the opportunities to the things that, these people would be good at, right? And if then you refer to it as job training and you just get it blanketed said it's job training, it's like, well, job training for what? So maybe the question, so since those are all kind of yes, those are all great, we're not disagreeing on any of those. Maybe we want to ask, what type of job training? What like kind of go to that next level.
Or how.
So that we-
Or something.
Yeah, so we can understand, like, when we just say throw out job training, that's not, we want to understand what that is. It's kind of like not just affordable, but what is affordable? So maybe we could kind of apply that lens. And so then the question is, which of these three are best, because they're all part of it.
Right.
And we kind of go a little deeper on a couple that are like, tell us what you know, what range of jobs or what types of jobs or how, what do you think of when you think of job training?
Are we gonna be able to see the surveys, the final survey before it goes out for the public?
But will there be an approval process for us?
So here's the dilemma, guys. Meeting is next week on the 11th, and we want this to go live at that time with the public meeting. So if we work to edit this based on all this conversation, can we do that really fast? Can we send this back out around? So that, I don't know about approval process, but like a review, you can see it. I think we have to try to do.
Yeah. And I think, Matt, what I've heard from you a lot so from this is what is difficult to adjust is some of the structure. But
words.
Easier to adjust the words and some of the options. So, yeah.
That's right.
So we need to settle on the structure questions first, and then we can send an update, an edited version of the question for more review.
That's next week.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's next week.
Yeah, that was the goal.
I think that's an unrealistic goal.
Well, it's all feeling that way right now.
We want it to be a real
Yeah.
tool.
Okay.
If you're able to get it to us as soon as possible, would everyone be in agreement of like having a simple process of like approve or do not approve and then specifying what still needs to be reworded? Because I feel like overall, it seems like we agree with all the questions. It's just the framing of the questions that need to be reviewed.
Yeah.
And having to choose three, yes, it's just.
Well, we're gonna work on that piece. That's what I think we've heard loud and clear, like choosing three is just not the right, it's kind of pitting them against each other, which.
Yeah, and so that we can quickly respond and get into what we can respond. There's a couple of themes that have come up multiple times, right? Like, how long should it be? Exhausting, how long does it take it, right? I think Matt said, right, if we have 15 questions and they're all ranked the whole thing, it just gets exhausting to do that. And the fear is people will complete half the survey and say, I gotta go do something else. And so we won't. So if we could really talk about as quickly as possible, how many questions is the right number of questions? Because I agree with this community has been planned and surveyed and outreached for a decade, but like fatigue in that process, especially given the lack of outcomes from that, right? Make people not want to do it. So how do we make this survey successful? How many questions is the right number of questions?
Well, it's not just that. It's not how many questions. It's, are we asking the exactly right question?
Well, and then, yeah.
And are the choices that they have to choose from it there, if we're not using the Likert scale, having to choose three, I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to, is it even what we need?
Yeah.
So, no, how many
So
questions?
let's do this, because I hear what you're saying, and let's go back and rework, like based on everything we've been talking about. And let's send that back out and let me circle back with folks on the timing and just let me work.
Okay, and I think, it's.
And see if we can, what we can do to give ourselves a little more space to get it right. Because I agree, we don't want to use one of our surveys that we get to do and not get to the heart of what we're trying to do.
I mean, another thing is like in the neighborhood doing outreach for forever and ever, knocking on doors and stuff, having an event come and get stoked, and then you introduce the fact we're gonna be doing a survey.
Sure.
Right.
Then that gets,
Yes.
that's reason to hold up.
Yeah, a quick note on that, like if we have time for reworking, that's cool. We do have Likert scale functionality. We have like drag and drop ranking, and then we just have pure Likert like 1 through 6. So that's already possible. The only reason you don't see Likert here is because we're looking at 15-ish questions. And I just don't want the fatigue of somebody's thinking, my fourth option, my fifth option. You know what I mean? So we can incorporate that into some of the questions though and see how it feels overall.
Okay, yeah, I think going back to the incentivizing of this is really important because you guys are doing a great job of considering payment for the community leaders. This is organizations and compensation that way, but it does need to be incentivized somehow for the people who are taking the surveys because that's a big investment.
Okay. Yes. Oh, sorry, Sandra, I had a.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, is there a way that you guys can also announce the meeting? Maybe like TV or, and it's like, I know most people here watch just Mexican news. And, but also 4 News, 9 News, all of those, just announcing that there's gonna be a survey going on in district neighborhoods, and that there's gonna be a meeting on March 11th. Is there funding for that? Is it possible to do it? Because I guess that's also gonna help us. I ask black captains, because some captain makes sense. They haven't even excused me or anything, but I'm so that way there's also people are gonna know that there's gonna be people around going to their homes instead of just knocking on door and people being afraid who is that on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's another reason with the law, is so that people can be less afraid.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
more heads up. That's
So,
really-
let's talk about how that
Yes.
we just need a little more
Elena
info.
said the comms team will do some meetings, which is
Yeah.
cool. I want to respect everyone's time. I think we're at time. I know we didn't get to the housing pieces, but I know that we started that conversation during our last meeting. But please feel free to add stickies to the boards as you all head out or to the mural board. We had questions to asking how long that's gonna be up for. Real?
Mural board?
Yes.
Let's leave it, well, we need to make edits. I mean, with the timeline of things, like, I would say a day. So, can we leave it on a list? Or how do we?
Yeah, it's live. I can send it out after today's meeting. I would say by noon Friday, if you all can put your thoughts in. Does that sound right?
I think we have to say end of day.
End of day tomorrow.
End of day
tomorrow.
But it doesn't mean, so just to be clear, let's do end of day tomorrow. Let's get everybody's thoughts. Let us try to rework this. And then I will get back on this timing and how this might.
Thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate it. There's flyers for the community event across the room and out on the table if you all want to take some. We're dropping the mural board again one more time online and I will send it out after this.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you all.
We can do that.
Have a good meeting. Thank you.
Great meeting, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
But yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know, yeah, but it's 35,000 people. Like, what would you be, you guys should do it, like, I don't know.
I mean, I think the other thing we also didn't want to do is like